Jennifer Sanasi. You're watching News 24 Live. Well, I'm sitting down today with Lord Robin Rennick. Now, he was the British ambassador to South Africa during South Africa's time of transition. And Robin, you've written about it in Mission to South Africa, Diary of a Revolution.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me today.
No, thank you for coming in and expanding on the book. It's quite an interesting angle to look at the events that were going on at that time. Now, before we get into it, I want to know, how do you look back on your time as a British ambassador in South Africa?
Well, it was an extraordinary time to be here, because when I arrived, it was the worst of times. You know, there was P.W. Botha and General Milan, you know, repression, thousands of people in detention without trial. ANC leaders were either in jail or in exile, and things were very grim indeed, including death squads, the Civil Corporation Bureau, Mr. de Kock, who's just been released on parole.
Right.
And these were very grim times, but it was the worst of times, but also the best of times, in the sense that I met a huge number of extremely impressive South Africans in both sides of the divide who were determined to try and change things, get to a peaceful outcome.
Now, you say it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Talk us through what you were thinking. What was going through your mind internally when you were here?
Well, when I came here, you know, I was convinced that there had to be a kind of compromise in the end between the white community, especially the Afrikaners on the one hand, and the black leaders, the black national parties on the other. It was getting there was very difficult. I mean, Botha had no intention of releasing Mandela or unbanning the ANC. So it was quite providential, you know, when he fell ill and F.W. de Klerk took over. And I knew de Klerk well before he became president. And from my conversations with him before he became president, I was convinced that he would make some major changes. Not everybody was, because he had a reputation of being very conservative, leader of the party in the Transvaal. Even his brother said to me, he's too conservative.
Really?
Yes. And I said, well, you've known your brother longer than me, but I think he's going to surprise you.
Now, talk us through your relationship with Botha. You were here. What kind of relationship did you have with him?
Very frosty. I mean, I had to go and argue with Botha about warning him to any more bombing of the neighboring capitals. There would be retaliation from us. I had to go and argue for the lives of the Sharpeville Six and so on. So these were very difficult meetings, and it was an extraordinary, I mean, he was in a tiny office in the Toyn House down the road here, and he had eye problems, so there was only one small light in this dark room, and he was wearing dark glasses. Wow. He's a very difficult personality, so these were really weird, difficult meetings. I
can imagine. Now, how do you prepare to have these difficult meetings and go in and argue on on issues that are so contentious? How do you prepare for that?
Well, he, just before I got here, he used to record these meetings, even though it was just him and me, and he had published the recording of a meeting he had with a friend of mine, Van Zyl Slabbert, where Van Zyl had said something polite to him, just to be polite, and it had also said, you know, made comments about other people, which he then published. So each time I went in to see him, I said, you know, it's not. I'm going to make sure that he's not going to print the record of this meeting, because he's not going to enjoy reading it. So.